Welcome to Make Things Happen with Diana Pagano. I came from struggle, living life on survival mode, and later found myself living in that same vicious cycle. Life is meant to be so much more than settling. My life changed when I learned the power of your mindset and how it applies to every part of your life. I'm a business leader, speaker, and author. I have made it my life's mission to share all the tools and techniques that changed my life because I know they will for you too. All your hopes and dreams really lie in the how. How are you making things happen? Are you ready to stop dreaming for what could be and turn those dreams into reality? I thought so. Well, get ready to live life on your terms. Hello and welcome back to Make Things Happen with Diana Pagano. Today we're going to talk about grit. One of my favorite topics is grit because you could have the greatest strategy, you can have a goal and you can have your vision and all these things, but without grit in your toolkit, you're never going to make it to the end, likely, right? Because grit is what gets you through things. And that's what we're going to get into today is grit. And if you feel that you haven't had the right opportunities to explore grit or exercise grit or what is grit, we're going to get into that. And I'm so excited to break it down for you. Can you think of a time that maybe you went after something, there was some goal that you attempted to achieve, whether it's a personal goal, you tried to lose weight, or you wanted to travel the world, or you wanted to maybe get that job and you just settled for something else. Maybe it's a promotion, whatever it is that you set a goal for yourself, or maybe you didn't set a goal, you just went after something and then it didn't happen for you, right? It happens to all of us. Can you imagine if you got everything that you went for? Can you imagine if everything all the time went your way? Can you imagine if Tiger Woods every single time got a hole-in-one? For you golfers out there, right? Can you imagine every time you go to hit the ball, you get a hole-in-one or you get the shot every single time without fail? Who would you be right now? What are the things that you've gone after in your life that if it didn't go wrong at some point or it didn't go the right way, or if those challenges didn't happen, who would you be right now? The challenges are molding us. They're allowing you to grow grit. And if you look at a situation in your life that you're like, okay, this isn't for me because I attempted to do this thing and it didn't work out, and you threw in the towel, then you're not allowing grit to start coming into play. You didn't pull grit out and say, okay, this may be difficult. This may not be as easy as I thought it was. But I'm going to bring that thing called grit. I'm going to allow that to just propel me forward. That's what gets you through the things. I remember, having a crazy childhood, and I think, just getting through life was a survival mode mentality for me. Even as a young adult in my 20s, as a single mom even, and having to pay my mortgage and pursuing real estate at the same time so that I can give my kids something better that I didn't have growing up. There wasn't a choice. The failure just wasn't an option for me because I already knew what that felt like. I knew what that was. If I didn't get the sale, if I didn't succeed in my day, in my week, I knew what that meant, and that was pain. So when you think about what is your purpose, what is the thing that you're going after, and I would focus on purpose. The higher the purpose, the higher your grit's gonna be, hands down. So everybody on some level has had grit. If you think about a time that you went through something that was difficult, you got through it, and you came out on the other side, right? What got you through that other side? Your purpose. And what is the thing that's going to push your purpose forward is your grit. Is not getting a yes sometimes hurts your soul, but that you keep going. And it takes practice. It's like that muscle that you practice at the gym. It's not something like, oh yeah, I got grit with me in this journey and nothing's going to stop me. Nothing's going to get to me, right? It's something that you practice like a muscle, like a muscle. If you think about the past of what are the things that potentially you gave up on your dreams, or you said, this isn't for me, or you decided that all these reasons justifying why it's not right for you right now, or it's not the right time for me, or I'm not meant to do this thing, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. They saw that I don't have what it takes, and that's why they said no, and I folded. Hard for people to swallow, right? We have this narrative that if we don't get what we want, we live in such an instant gratification world. My gosh, if I get my cell phone and I'm texting somebody and it doesn't go through in lightning speed and it happens to be 4 seconds that it got sent. God forbid, we're all freaking out. What's wrong with this, right? We live in such an instant gratification universe that when you don't get what you want, 2 things are going to happen. You're either going to look at the situation and say, okay, I'm going to turn around and go seek something else, even though that thing is what you wanted, because you've decided and you've convinced yourself with this narrative that it's not for me. Or the second thing, which is the beautiful part of this topic, is that you're going to say, what else can I do? Because I know that I'm going to get to that target, hell or high water, that's where I'm going. That's called grit, you guys. That is called grit at its finest. And you bring grit with you by the way that you react to challenges. If you look at a situation and the challenges that come your way, and you can look at it from a different perspective, you're shifting that mindset. You're changing the channel to the channel that has been crippling you, that has allowed you to play small, when in reality, you're not looking to play small. And so when you change your perspective, you change the channel to something that gives you that hope. And it's being able to see that target and say, this is where I'm going. No matter what attempts to get in my way, I might stumble. I might have to go over here and there. I might have to pivot. I might have to get up and dust myself off. But I'm going to get back up because I am determined. Even that saying, when you seek, you shall find. And even neuroscience shows that that's what creates fulfillment. Research and science has shown that people that win the lottery, they're not happy. It takes away the feeling of pursuit. When you pursue something, you're seeking something, and even practicing grit when you don't get what you want immediately, that you stick with it, you're going through it, and it's molding you. It's allowing you to become the great person you were meant to be. But you got to go through those emotions versus, right? And there's been studies shown that when you're giving somebody something with a silver spoon and then they lack ambition, they lack purpose, that's the number one thing you could rob of your child, a friend. You're just going to do things for them. You're robbing them from really gaining that grit that just comes from within. It comes from the struggle of life. When you struggle, you're going to seek to get yourself out of it. It's human nature. It's your human psychology will tell you that you won't stay down, just like a recession in the 70s. We were in a recession, even before that. Anytime there's a recession, you go up, you go down. Nothing ever stays down for you. Think about a time that everything looks bad. Always remember, this too shall pass, right? And that perspective and that determination of where you're headed and making sure that your target of where you're headed has enough purpose that will get you through it. And when you practice that grit, is you're allowing the cards to fall where they may, but be so obsessed with it, where it's something that you just are so obsessed with and you're thinking about it every day and it's something that you want to do. And make sure that that purpose is big enough. If it's not a big enough purpose, well, what's the likelihood that you're going to take every step that your journey requires, right? When the going gets tough, oh, well, the purpose isn't big enough, so I can go either way. If it doesn't go my way, well, it doesn't change my life. I'm good, which is fine. But it's about growth. It's about growing. It's about looking and pursuing something and going through the process and progressing as a human being. When you're not progressing, you're dying. That's what I think is a fulfillment. That's what's going to make you feel so fulfilled and bring happiness. Not winning the lottery, not going for something and getting everything your way. Not saying things can't go your way. Just saying that having the tools in your kit and saying, what are the things that I can do right now to make sure that my goals and my target of where I'm headed isn't going to be tainted by circumstances that might happen, because life will happen. Not everything all the time, 24/7, 365 is going to go your way. It's just not. That's not how life is. It wasn't meant to go your way 24/7, 365. It's meant to take you off course. It's meant to test your faith. It's meant to maybe go a different way because that other path that you weren't thinking was for you is now revealing something bigger, something greater than you ever thought. Let me tell you something. What's meant to be for you will be. Nobody, I truly believe that nobody's going to ever be able to take that away from you. What's meant to be for you, I believe that God doesn't put things into our lives to have us just fail and fold. I don't believe that. I believe that things are happening in your life for a purpose. And when you look at the challenges, as I've mentioned before in other episodes, challenge speaks to you. Challenges are speaking to us if we listen. And what are the things that we're learning? By going through the challenges, what are we learning from that? How are we evolving through it? It's allowing you to become the person that you're meant to become with that in mind, and knowing that I'm so committed, and you're committing up front, that no matter what happens, no matter what comes my way, not that you're looking to attract that things are going to go wrong, but that you know up front, hey, you know what? Things might not always go my way, but I'm so determined that I'm going to get to that place. And with grit, you're just going through it with grit. Grit is that you're going to do it anyways. Grit says, you know what? So what if I didn't make it this time? Tomorrow is a new day. I get to do this tomorrow again. Not I have to do this thing. No, I get to do this thing again. That's what grit is. Grit is looking at somebody that tells you no, and you're saying, okay, no means not now. It doesn't mean no. So I'll go to the next one. Until you get your yes, I'm telling you, it's all here. It is not about talent. Oh, I can do, I don't have the right talent. I don't have the right skill set. Because research has even proven that it's what you do and the effort you bring forward on your daily activities, your weekly activities. What are you doing consistently that makes a big difference, right? It's not that big thing you did last year, that big thing you did last week. It's what are you doing consistently to work towards your goal. You get 1 point for being talented. You get 2 for the effort you're putting forward. So you could be like, I'm not skilled at that thing, but you're putting more effort than the guy that's actually naturally talented at this thing. You're going to get better results by just the effort you're putting forward. It doesn't matter what experience you bring to the table or the lack of experience that you bring to the table. What matters is what are you doing consistently? Now you become so obsessed with the thing that you're wanting to pursue and you become amazing at it. And then coupled with your effort, you will be unstoppable. Truly. And it's all about your perspective of how are you facing the things that come your way and how are you reacting to that challenge. That really is going to set the tone for what comes next for you. What comes next for you is going to happen based on the energy you're exuding. I've talked about quantum physics. That's going to happen in a later episode. I'm so big on the energy because we are all energy and the universe is going to mimic that energy. So if you're sitting there saying, oh, why me? Why me? Nothing ever goes right. When it rains, it pours. How many times have you heard people say that? Having a little pity party for yourself. What is the universe now? Your vibration is now going to attract things in your life that is going to mimic your vibration. But if I'm like, okay, son of a beaver, that hurt. I say that a lot because I've got kids. That hurt. That challenge really freaking hurt me. It set me back, gosh darn it. But you know what? What can I do? So I can't do this thing because it just threw me off my track. But what can I do to turn this around? Honest to God, just by asking that question, you're allowing then grit to go through your journey with you. Nothing amazing ever came easy peasy. It never did. And I'm not here to be negative because I'm all about, hey, you can attract things that are easy peasy. And let me tell you, when you start practicing that, you're going to notice that things, oh my gosh, is it really this easy? It is. It doesn't have to be hard. But it's just knowing up front that you're going to go through the journey of the goals that you've set for yourself, or maybe you haven't set goals, which you should, but whatever it is that you're going after, it could be a reactive thing that you're just pursuing. But if you're pursuing something, know that at times things may not always go your way. And what are you committing to up front? Be proactive. I'm going to put on my bulletproof to rejection. Today, I'm going to put on my bulletproof to rejection so that no matter what comes my way, no matter who tells me no, it's not a reflection of my journey. It's not a reflection of my ability to still make things happen. You commit up front in the morning. Put on your bulletproof to rejection. You're good. You're covered. You set your intention that, hey, no matter what comes my way, it's going to bounce off of me. Now, you might say, Diana, I am not a robot. How am I going to bounce off that call that I got from my doctor with bad news, or that thing that, my business partner, whoever, a customer, right? I'm not saying you're a robot, but what's the alternative? Remember, if you get a call from somebody with not the greatest news that you wanted to hear, again, what energy are you going to put towards that thing? Because if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doomed, that thing, just ruins your day. It's been shown, research has shown that when you're in a negative vibration, you're going to attract more negative things. It's not that you can't feel the emotions of things that maybe hurt your soul. Maybe it's your mom's sick or something's going on, throws you off your tracks. It's not that you are not allowed to feel emotions. You are, and you should, and it's real. But you just can't stay there. If somebody makes you angry, how do you shift that? How do you shift that negative energy that might have attempted to get in, but you had your shield, so it protected you, or it got you? It's okay if it gets you. It's just you can't stay there. So when you change the channel to something more and say, okay, what else does this mean? So I got a call from a customer, and I was so excited about this opportunity, and it looks to be just completely coming to shambles. It's not going to happen for me. And you got two choices. You're always going to do one or two things. You're going to sit there and be upset about it, create more energy. You're going to call people and complain about it. You're going to be bitching about it, this, that, and the other, creating more energy that only allows the universe to send you more circumstances that mimic that energy. So it's all in your perspective, but the grit was like going to push you, propel you forward. It's all in your perspective of like, what else does this mean? What else can I do? What else can I do? But to see a challenge come your way, and you know that your target is over here, that's where I'm headed, and you see a challenge that attempts to knock you off your feet, or maybe it did knock you off your feet, are you going to get back up, or are you going to fold? When you got grit in your toolkit, you get up and you look at the situation. What else can I do? I can't see a way. Find a way. Could you imagine what if you could find a way? What if there was someone else you can talk to? What if not everything had to fall on you? What else could this mean? Right? Just by asking those questions of possibilities, having a growth mindset in a time of challenge allows you to propel you forward, because again, it's your energy and what you're exuding and what life will bring you, because you're looking at this from an angle of like, what else could this mean? And it's going to allow you to now open the window to possibilities versus closing it and saying, I'm doomed, I'm doomed, I'm doomed. It's like, no, you're not doomed. Okay, so it set you back a little bit. So what? Right? The greatest things that people have achieved in this lifetime that we're in has had setbacks. You might see all the good things that they're doing, and you don't see the sweat and tears and all the hard, crazy stories that they have. Even for you, what are some of the things that you've gone through in your life that you can think of that you passed up because you just gave up too soon? Or I'm sure there's something that you've achieved in your life that you succeeded in, right? What story do you now have to tell somebody because of what you went through? You have the ability to empower the people around you. It doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter how old you are. You have the ability to empower somebody else with something that you went through. And that's, grit is not for the weak-minded, but it's okay if somebody is weak-minded in that moment. We all have our moments of weak-minded moments, and it's about catching yourself and saying, does this really propel me forward? Does this empower me? Does this move me forward? You know the answer. You know the answer more than anyone is you. And if the answer is no, then what do you have to lose? To just have one glimmer of hope, one glimmer of like a different perspective. What else can I do? Who else can I talk to? Right? That's what grit is. And going through grit, let me tell you, my life, it wouldn't be what it is today if it just went perfectly beautiful every day. I'm not saying that your life or your kid's life can't be beautiful every day, but it's also learning by going through challenges and learning that grit is found, is born in those moments of hardships at times, right? I feel like that's part of your lifeline. That's part of what makes it work. is grit. More than talent, more than the skills, more than the education in your background, what you bring to the table, more than money is grit, is going through the tough times and being able to say, I remember when I went through that dark time, but I was so determined, I was so focused, and I committed up front that no matter what, this is where I'm going, and nothing and no one is going to get in my way. So you might get sidetracked, right? But you get back up and you go again, and you look at tomorrow like, I am grateful for the opportunity that I get to do this again tomorrow. It's not over for you. It's not over for me. It's like, I get to do this again. That's what's the beauty about it. And when you have, and you see the successful companies or successful entrepreneurs, or doesn't matter what background you're doing, whatever profession that you're in. I've been in sales my whole life. I've been an entrepreneur since I could remember. So I will share a story that I say in my trainings as well. Person A has all the skill sets, knows all about the product, is just an expert. Person B doesn't know all about the product, but knows enough to be dangerous just to start a conversation, but doesn't have the background that person A has, right? But person B and person A are dealt with the same exact cards of rejection. Person A has all the background, has all this knowledge, folds quicker because doesn't have what person B has. Person B has grit, sees the situation and says, okay, I may not have it all figured out, but I know that I can figure it out. I'll work it out. I'll work my way through it. I'll do whatever it takes to get there. And we'll see a situation like that and that rejection from a different angle. And they'll say, well, okay, what other angle? What other door? Is there a back door? Is there a side door? Because I know people have gone in there. And if it's been done before, then I can do it too. Right? And without that perspective, without that shift, the grit can't, where's grit? Where is that thing that gets you through that? And oftentimes, I've seen so many people that I've had the privilege to coach, and even not just people in general in my business and other businesses that I've coached, and give up way too fast when they were about to succeed, but they gave up too quick. And as you know, I have a sales background. I've been in sales my entire life. And most people, they get a rejection and they give up. They don't follow up a month later. So no is never no. No, it's just not right now. And practicing that muscle and say, man, I didn't show up with grit yesterday. That's all right. What can you do today to show up? And practice that grit to where it now becomes part of you. And you will become even more unstoppable. Where you can say, I'm going to put my bulletproof to rejection and know up front that I'm going to commit, that I'm going to get there and have the right vision for it. But know that when times get tough, you're going to show up to that event. You're going to show up and know, not that you're expecting it, but that you know and that you're prepared. That when and if that happens, I'm going to be ready. Right? We weren't meant to stay in our comfort zone. If you're in your comfort zone, you're not growing. Put yourself out there. Do the scary thing. What are the scary goals? It would be nice to have that. Well, what do you mean it'd be nice to? Why can't you have it? Why is it? It'd be nice to have that. It's like when you see somebody with success and you're like, oh, that must be nice. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that. Must be nice to be able to do this. Must be nice to do it. It is very nice. And I worked hard for it. And I got rejected. And I fell. And I got back up. And I fell. And I got back up. I fell. I got back up. I got back, right? And so if you think in your mind, oh, it must be nice to do that thing. It must be nice to go travel here. It must be nice to, whatever. It's because you have this yearning desire inside of you for that thing. So at what point are you going to stop and say, I will to make this happen for myself? When you practice grit, it's when you overcome the challenges. That's where grit is born. And that you don't give up, that you keep going. I'm not saying when you go for something and you realize, oh my gosh, I need to pivot, I need to change gears, I need to put this thing on hold for whatever reason. Even my podcast, I spoke about that in my earlier episode. There is a time and a season that you need to reevaluate and reflect what's important in this season for you. What are the things that, even with grit and all these things, It's just not the right time for you. Only you can determine that, right? But I want to make sure that I'm emphasizing that you're not putting off the thing that lights your heart on fire, the thing that you just have such a purpose for the wrong reasons, because you're thinking that maybe you're not meant to do this thing or you're not ready to do this thing yet. I was there once upon a time. Oh, I'm not ready for that yet. But when you have grit and you're going to go for the things that you want, make sure you bring that along with you and that you know up front, this is what is non-negotiable for me. And let me tell you, without grit, you're not going to get to the finish line. And I say this very loosely because even when you get to the finish line, you're off to the next project. So that's what I mean by that. Because if things go your way, you'll get to the finish line and then you start a new project. What about when they don't go your way? When you start seeing that things that don't go your way can still mean that you get to that finish line. It's just going to look a little bit different. It's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be, twists and turns. And then, right, you'll still get there. And as long as you know that, that's key. And the question I'll ask you when you think about going after a goal, maybe you're already pursuing something in your career, as you should, and whatever it is that you're going through right now, whatever you're looking to achieve in your business or personally, are you willing to do whatever it takes? Ponder on that for a minute. Are you willing to do whatever it takes? Because that, my friends, is exactly what grit is doing whatever it takes, looking at it from different angles of what else can I do? So you have a plan, you have your execution strategy, you have a goal, you have a plan, and that strategy shows maybe in the middle of your journey that it's not proven to succeed. What else can you do? How is your pivot strategy? Not saying you have to have that. You want to plan to succeed. Plan up front, I'm going to succeed. But when and if that happens, you get to a point in your journey that something doesn't go your way, what else does this mean? And if you're willing to do whatever it takes, then you're not going to easily give up. You get to decide what is meant for you and what lights your heart on fire. Nobody else does. Only you can fold. And even when you think about failure, I hate saying that word, but when we fail, there's something being born in us. There's some lesson to be learned through the failures of things. I don't believe it's ever really failure. I think it's only failure when you give up. When you give up, you failed yourself. Oh, but what do you mean? They told me, no, I didn't get the money from the bank. No. It doesn't matter about money or the lack of resources. It starts with you. It starts with your mind. It starts with how much can you handle of rejection, of the things that don't go your way. And if you feel like you're weak-minded and you've never been able to really go through grit because, it's just too hard and you get anxiety and all these things, you got this narrative, you're building up all the reasons that you can't go through this thing because it's too stressful for you and all these things. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying things may not attempt to give you anxiety, but you don't have to stay there. It's not that anyone is weak-minded. It's like practicing a muscle, as I mentioned earlier. It's about practicing that muscle and getting stronger. I see my trainer a couple times a week. I went months without seeing him, which is not my typical. It's not my typical. And just got into stuff. Life happens. And I didn't go for a few months. And man, when I went back, I was sore. I was uncomfortable. So be okay with being uncomfortable. You're going through the thing that you need to go through. The awkwardness, maybe it's annoying, maybe it's a little scary, but that's how you build a strong mind. And a strong mind with a plan, with a goal, you're going to be unstoppable. You're going to strengthen that muscle of grit. You can come out on the other side. I know you can. So as you practice grit in your daily life, it's going to be something that you want to do regularly. Just bring it with you. And oftentimes it's the narrative. It's the thing in your mind that's telling you all the reasons why it's going to be difficult today, all the reasons that things are not going to go your way. And part of the grit is telling that show at the door. Like, I got no space for you. Again, it's the energy you're exuding, the things that you've adopted, that you've allowed to get impregnated in your mind. And you can say, today's a busy day. I got meetings back to back and there's just no way I'm going to get this done. You might not even say it out loud. You're just saying it to yourself, right? But when you look at that and look at it from a different angle and say, man, I got a lot of stuff on my plate today, I'm curious how much I can still accomplish even though I'm pretty slammed today. You're just opening up that window of possibilities and allowing that to kind of flow nicely versus, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. I'm not gonna be able to get all this done. I have too much on my plate. I'm back-to-back meetings and there's just no way. All of a sudden, the rest of your day is no way. If you believe that there's no way, there will never be a way. If you believe that on top of the craziness and all this, that you're still gonna get through this because you're gonna be with grit through the process, and that, you know what, even though I have all these things on my plate, even though I have this heavy load, I know that by the time I'm having dinner tonight, I'm going to look back at all the things I actually got to accomplish today. Think about that. How much better does that sound? And when you hear the words, how does that make you feel? Right? Think about it. If I say, oh my gosh, let me pretend that I'm your voice in your mind. Let's role play with me for a minute, okay? I'm your mind and I'm talking to you and I'm saying, hey, you're never going to get anything done because you just overpacked yourself and you have all these meetings and you got to go to the thing at 4 and then that other thing at 5 and you have to do this thing and deadlines. You're never going to get anything done. Ouch. Now let's do the grit side, the growth mindset side, the shift in perspective side, the change the channel side. And now I'm going to talk to you. So we're going to rewind that. Here's a new one. Here's your new voice talking to you. I know you have a lot of things to do today, and I know that you overpacked your schedule because all these things are important to you and they had to happen, and you have a lot of things going on. But I know that you're going to manage to still accomplish the things that are the most important to you and that are the most important to your goals and that are more important to move the needle. I know you're still going to manage to get everything done that you need to get done. And by the time you're having dinner tonight with your family or your loved ones or your friend or by yourself with your dog, you're going to be looking at your day and saying, wow, I'm so proud of myself because I still managed somehow to get the things that I needed done today. I might have gone a little overboard with that second one, but see the difference? How does that feel? You see the difference of how the sounds of your own voice and just the narrative, even if it's in silent, the narrative in your mind is going to drive how you feel. And the way that you feel is going to drive the action that you take or the lack of action that you don't take. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people just not get things done because they didn't believe they could get it done because everything around them is saying that it's not going to happen. What did you decide? You got sold. You got influenced. You got sold. You bought the thing that they were feeding you, and now you became a self-sabotage pattern for yourself. That's really what happened. Nobody, not the lack of money, not the lack of skill set, not the boss that's telling you it's different, not your customers, not your family members, not your kids that are just trying to take every ounce out of you for maybe your time or just things. Nobody gets to dictate, right? What comes next for you? You have to buy in on the thing that they're feeding you. You get to do that. Nobody else does. So think about that in advance in your journey and know that you are the driver. You get to decide when you're going to fold and if you're going to fold, if you're going to pivot and when you're going to pivot. And understand that your purpose has to be greater than anything that you're going after, and understanding what is the purpose behind this thing that I'm going after, because that's what's going to get you to just bring along grit with you during your journey. And telling yourself that it is possible, regardless of what other people have said, telling yourself it is possible awakens this energy in you. It's just going to allow you to feel different about this thing that you're going after. Knowing and telling yourself that I can do this, I will do this, and it is possible. Changes everything. Change the narrative and watch how it changes how you feel. Your journey may not look perfect. It's like, I always say this example of that farmer that's planting his seeds and watering his garden and saying, when's the sun going to come? You know, it's been cloudy. You don't see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. You don't see that golden ticket that you've been pursuing is so close because you're too busy focused on all the things that are going wrong that ticket that's there just on the next page. Just keep going. Keep planting your seeds. I promise you they will come to fruition. It always does. As long as it's what you're doing consistently to plant those seeds. You might be knocking on 10 doors and they're all telling you no, but it's that other door, it's the 11th door that opened that you didn't even knock at. You knocked at 10 doors, and this door out of nowhere just comes your way, this opportunity, and you're like, wow, I was focused on knocking on these doors, and all of a sudden I got an opportunity from left field, just came out of nowhere. That didn't come out of nowhere. It came because you were being consistent and you were planting your seeds, even if no one over here was opening your door. That is how life works. That is how the universe is going to bring you the thing that you're in vibration on. Don't worry what the neighbor's doing. Don't worry what your competitor might be doing. Let your marketing department worry about what the competitor is doing. To some degree, yes, okay, you got to pay attention to what's going on in the industry. But you should be in competition with yourself. Fall in love with competing with yourself. What did I do last year? What did I do last week? What did I do yesterday? What can I do today to beat that person I was yesterday? Today's a new day. Today is a new day that I get to do something different. I get to be creative. I get to play with this thing called courage. I get to do this thing called outside of my comfort zone. Until you get out of your comfort zone and do the thing that scares you or maybe makes you nervous, you won't know what was possible if you didn't try. And I hate that word, by the way. But if you don't attempt to do something, you'll never know unless you attempt to do the thing that scares you. You'll never know. And you get out of your comfort zone, and now when you look back, you're like, wow, I did that thing that scared me. Who are you now that you can look back? You're somebody with way more confidence. I'll tell you that much. Yes, you are. You are so much more confident now that you got through that thing that scared you. And the question you're going to ask, what else can I do that scares me? Right? It's a beautiful thing. That journey of uncertainty. Guys, I grew up with uncertainty. I grew up not knowing where we were going to live at times. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. And even in my early 20s, I started to just kind of live that vicious cycle of just being in survival mode. And it wasn't until I realized that I had to raise my standards. And I started to be so obsessed with human psychology and why are some people so successful while other people struggle? And let me tell you, the number one dominating factor here is grit. When I failed, I gave up too quick. I didn't bring grit along with me and journey. And when I succeeded, it's because of grit. Grit has gotten me through life. And it's not always comfortable. And it's not always pretty and sexy and attractive. But you get through the other side because you know you've done it and you know you can do it again. And I'm telling you, until you go through the waters of the craziness, the scariness, the uncomfortableness, you will never see what you're freaking capable of. And I know that you're here for a reason. You saw this Make Things Happen podcast with Diana Pagano. What is this all about? We're here to make things happen together in our journey. And I can't wait to share what I might do that makes me uncomfortable next week or next month or next year because I know that it's scary. And it's like, okay, let me just get on that roller coaster. I've said this before, and you put your bulletproof to rejection and you're just like, let me hold on tight. But I know that this is part of what I need to do to be successful on the other side, to come out a winner. You're not here to play it safe, you guys. You're not here to play mediocre. You're here to go big. You're here to do the thing that lights your heart on fire. I'm not here to tell you to go big. I'm here to tell you what's that thing you want, right? If you want to go bigger in your business, if you want to go bigger in your personal journey, whatever that is, you want to go bigger in your relationships, show up, do the thing that makes you uncomfortable. You're going to succeed. I promise you, you will succeed without a shadow of a doubt. Just be prepared and commit and say, how bad do I want it? And are you willing to do whatever it takes? Within reason, right? Because make things happen is more than just do whatever it takes and then kill yourself in the process. No. And that's why you've been following me. We're going to get into all things make things happen. But today was about grit. And I'm so excited to be in this topic and to be in this journey with all of you. And I can't wait to see all the things that you practice in your journey, that you provide that grit and you see what you're capable of, that you get out of your comfort zone. And one of the biggest killers of dreams, on top of just not having grit with you, is giving an SHIT what other people think of you. That narrative that you are never meant to do this thing. I've had people tell me that they were told by their own parents, by a teacher, that you will never amount to anything because you're a freaking troublemaker. You know, whatever it is, whatever that narrative is that you're fighting these battles in your head, it doesn't have to live there. You're keeping it alive by not rejecting that and changing the channel to some other thing that helps and makes you feel more empowered. It's that narrative that you have to silence and be able to say, I'm not going to listen to the haters, the nayers. There's people in your life that love you and want you to play it safe. Doesn't make them bad people. It just means that, are you going to listen to that person that is telling you to play it safe? Because oftentimes people don't have the guts to go attempt to go try and make that happen or even make it happen. I'd rather attempt to do the thing that scares me. I'd rather go after something than to live in regret. Most people, guys, most people will never pursue the thing that lights their heart on fire because they're too afraid. Life is too short to live in regret. Life is too short to say, what if? Are you gonna be 97 years old one day and look back and say, what if I did that thing? Who would you be now? What would you have done? Life is too short to just play it safe and play mediocre. If you want to play mediocre and that fills your heart on fire and that makes you happy, who am I to tell you not to play mediocre? I know you're meant for more, and I know that you're here, and I'm excited for this journey with you. So I encourage you to focus on the narrative that you're being fed, or the narrative that you are accepting of your own voice telling you, not now, I can't do that thing. All the voices, and shut them down, because you have the power and the ability to shut those down or to allow them in, really, and to get flight. What are some of the things that maybe you've passed up? What are some things that some goals that you had and you said, you know, it's just not for me? What are some of the things you passed up that you could look at? Where could you apply grit in your life right now? And maybe you have a story. Maybe you've said, you know what, I had such grit and I came out the other side and it was a beautiful thing. What are your stories? Where could you apply grit in the future? What are some of the things that have held you back? That you're like, okay, I'm going to get clear now. And I know now I need to put my bulletproof to rejection and I'm going to go do this thing. What are those scary goals that maybe you've been avoiding because you've convinced yourself that it wasn't for you, or it's not right now, or somebody else did it for you? Because now you're ready. Now that you have grit in your toolkit and you have that shift in perspective that you're going to apply when challenges happen, it's how do you react to those challenges that really determines what comes next for you. Now you're ready because you have your bulletproof to rejection and you're going to make things happen. That's all for this episode on grit. I really hope that you are able to practice grit, that maybe you have already applied grit in your life. Maybe you have a story that, man, that without grit didn't get you through the other side. Love to hear from you. And remember, you can follow me on social at I am Diana Pagano. If you're streaming in on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. And I'd love to hear your feedback of any stories that you might have or how you're going to apply grit. What are the things that maybe you learned on this episode? Love to hear from you. And remember, stay blessed and make things happen.